All right. Well, welcome to the show, Alex. I'm so happy to have you here because you've done so much. I'm just like so impressed by everything you've worked on. You've worked in film, you've released several EPs, you have played Canadian Music Week. Um, you've got this history with CBC, which I'm like so curious about. Um, so like, let's just start at like, how did you get into all of this? Like, how has music? When did music start in your life?
Oh, I mean, very, very early. I think, so my dad played piano and trumpet, and both sides of my family were very musical. Everyone, like a lot of people, played instruments kind of as a hobby and for fun, and so it was kind of just something that everyone enjoyed, and I overheard, from infancy. Big thing for me was hearing and watching my dad play piano when I was too young to even be able to get up on the bench. But I was always just very enthralled by that instrument, and that has not changed at all. I started taking classical piano lessons when I was 7, and I always practiced very, very hard, hours and hours all the time, to the point where, most of the time you think of classical piano students and kids that don't want to practice, but my parents had to try to get me to stop practicing because I didn't want to do anything else ever. So that was the start for me. I took piano all the way through high school. I started writing songs around the same time that I got into musical theater, and that was as a teenager, which was really, really fun. And then, I got singing as well. And these song ideas just kind of started appearing in my head when I was, taking the school bus home or something, or any random time, basically. So I started writing songs around 13. I moved to Hamilton to go to McMaster University for science, actually, but I was able to do a minor in classical piano and continue my piano studies there. And just through being in I grew up in Pickering and I moved to Hamilton for school. And then I was in a university town with a thriving indie music scene, which was something I didn't have in the town I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And it kind of dawned on me through performing in bars and joining bands and trying to also be a science student at the same time that, oh, you know what? It is actually possible to have a career as a musician in kind of a middle class kind of way. I got to go try that before I get any deeper into this science business, because really where my heart has always been at has been in music, every style, creating music, listening to music, experiencing music. I've been obsessed just kind of forever. But yeah, so that was a very long answer to your question. How did it start? Yeah. But to answer the other question you asked was that how did I get into so many different things? Is really the snowball effect, as I kind of just went through. One thing leads to another. You meet one person, they lead you to another opportunity. You play one bar, someone else asks you to play in their band. Thankfully, every time and I'm a very, very excitable, open. I'm the kind of person who will try everything once. It's like, do you want to do this? Yeah, sure. So having that kind of attitude and obsession with music has led to all sorts of different opportunities, and I find all of that really exciting. And I have this curiosity that has led me to do so many different things in music.
Cool. Yeah. No, thanks for sharing all of that. And I love the long-winded answers. It's all good. The more we hear about you, the better. So no worries there. I'm curious though, like when you said that like you didn't feel like it was possible to be a middle class musician? Like were your parents, you're saying were musicians, but they did other work? Like, so just the example of someone in your family like going for it as a musician just, I guess, wasn't there, as your parents obviously did other occupations while they played music, right? So is that, do I have that right, or?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So it was always seen as a lovely hobby. But where I grew, like, and I always knew, I really did know that I wanted to be a singer and a performer. But I couldn't really, there was no example for me really to look at. I knew a lot of people who played music and performed recreationally, and I knew a lot of people, and who had, science or technology or medical day jobs. That describes a lot of people in my family, I think. And so it seemed like you could do that, or you could be a huge celebrity megastar. And I never really saw myself like that, and I had no idea how you would even try to do that anyway. So definitely that. It was when I got to Hamilton and I saw examples of people who were kind of doing what I'm doing now, that I went, oh, maybe I should try that.
Yes. I mean, I mean, I love that, because it's just, we need to be in community with other musicians to keep us inspired. And, that's really a huge part of why I started this podcast, to be quite honest, is to just stay inspired and talk to other people who are like-minded people, essentially. And be like, oh, you're doing that thing. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, like, let me try that out. Or does that work for me? Like, there's always just different ways that we inspire each other along the path. So, that's cool. I'm curious, what kind of science did you study?
My major was in biophysics. The way you just took a sip of your tea. That's the reaction people normally have. What I thought I wanted to do, because I had this, the attitude that I absorbed from everyone around me was like, trying to pursue music is silly. You're just going to fail. It's going to be terrible. You're never going to have any money. You're going to be miserable and you're going to fail. Like, and of course, failure was like, not seen as a productive life lesson. It was like, no, don't do that. Don't do something you're going to mess up, right? But, oh my goodness, rambling here. What was the question? Here's the cringe moment that we're not editing out. Please repeat the question. I got off topic.
I asked you what science you did.
Oh yes, biophysics. What I wanted to do.
I love what you're getting into about the failure part. Like, let's talk about that.
I'm not scared of that anymore.
Okay,
I will say,
amazing.
But just because what I thought I wanted to do, I think was still pretty cool. Actually, I was really interested in a lot of people I knew, it's kind of sad, but when I was in high school, we lost a lot of people I knew to cancer. And I was interested in, there's something called lipid nanoparticle technology, which is that's why I was interested in the field of biophysics, because I was really interested in when you take chemo, how it, of course, the issue with chemo is that it attacks everything. It cannot distinguish between healthy tissues and unhealthy ones. And beyond that, for brain cancers in particular, you can't even get the drugs into the brain for certain reasons, certain protections that protect the brain from the rest of the body for survival, right? And so I was really intrigued to learn that people were designing these particles. They were putting the drugs in these tiny little particles and, creating them out of materials that could get through. So I was obsessed with that, and I really, passionately wanted to do something that was impactful with my life. Like I wanted to make some kind of a difference, and I thought that would be obviously a really great way to make a difference is to kind of go into cancer research and do that. I still follow that research. I'm still very invested in watching people figure out how to do that. But yeah, I was halfway through my undergrad and I went on a tour of the university lab I thought I would probably apply to go where they were developing a lot of these technologies. And when I walked in, I was just, my immediate reaction was not like excitement, I want to go do this. It was very much like, oh, I don't think I want to be in here. I think a lot of the attitude, a lot of the students wouldn't even tell me about what they were working on because they had patents that they were worrying about. Like it was all very much like the environment was not, you talk about how great it is to be in a room full of musicians jamming or sharing ideas or, talking about, having interesting conversations, and nobody wanted to talk about any of this. No one wanted to, it was missing that kind of energy, that collaboration. And I mean, of course the work is so important and people need to be doing it, but it immediately felt like I don't belong here. This is not for me. So what do I do? And to jump into what we were talking about, it's like, well, there's this whole other field that I don't really know. The path forward is very murky and mysterious, and I didn't really have, at first I didn't have anyone to really ask for guidance, and failure seemed like and again, failure, define success. It's very, murky again, like there's no hard definition. But that was the thing. I think being a very academic student, someone who was used to getting really high grades and doing things correctly and, being the best at things, that concept was that felt very, very scary. Like, I'm going to try something where I have no idea what I'm doing. It's hard, regardless. There's no clear path. There's no strategy you follow. That was, a very difficult thing for me at the time. And when I look back at kind of how I very kind of timidly started to where I am now, I'm a lot more comfortable with the idea of, you know what, we're going to try something, whether it's like a music project or like a video or like a tour. I'm going to try really hard to make this work, and it might not work. And if it doesn't work, or if I embarrass myself in some way, like it'll go away eventually. It's not a big deal. I've again, quote unquote, I've failed at many things along this pathway, and I can't even really remember anything right now because eventually things start to work and lead to cooler things, and it's really like all the things that have gone right or that have been rewarding or stand out way more than anything that didn't go as well as I wanted it to, right? So many benefits to going out and doing a creative career, unpredictable career. Personally, like I've grown a lot just as a person from taking these risks and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you really were the first person in your family to kind of like just take this big risk, and it sounds like you really had to like summon a lot of courage and bravery in order to like take those steps forward and just just take those, let me try out a bunch of different things and see what lands and see what works. And that's such a great attitude to have had, into going into that. Did you have like anybody that you kind of talk to along, like in those first few years? Like who did you really rely on to like, other than yourself obviously, to move the needle forward, but like who did you have anyone that you kind of leaned on in that time?
There were lots of different people. One person, the first person who comes to mind, she's a music producer and engineer named Amy King, and she engineered and produced and mixed my first EP. And I was introduced to Amy and Grant Avenue Studio through someone I met on Tinder while I was in university. Okay. And because at the time I was just like, oh yeah, I'm in science, but I'm kind of, I really want to try this music thing. I'm writing songs and I really want to try that. And they were like, oh, you would lose your mind in the studio, right? So yeah. Amy helped me, like, just in terms of like, okay, I have songs. What do I do? Okay, let's record them. This all, and she, having engineered lots of records, knew exactly what to do. Okay, now I have a finished EP. What do I do? And she had some thoughts. I can't think of one single person, but it's definitely been a lot of different people I've met along the way who had expertise or advice in different areas. And, you can't learn everything all at once. So there's definitely been steps and stages to building a career. And yeah, more thankfully, I've had a lot of different mentors over the last several years. And then the cool thing is that I also get to help newer people who are also starting too. So just the whole community, not a single person at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I find, as I'm having these conversations with people, I'm noticing that a lot of the time, like the producers and engineers, it seems like a lot of them, like it falls on their shoulders a little bit to be like, okay, I have these songs, like now what do I do? Like one of my guests that I talked to who's a producer engineer, like she has like a whole document on her website about like what to do after you've like gotten your song and like what are the steps broken down. And she was like, we talked a little bit about that, and she was like, well, I just was tired of having to like explain that process to like every artist I worked with, so I just like put it all into one document. So it's interesting, like, yeah, the ways that the support comes in, it's maybe not in like, you didn't have a manager, you didn't have like a label that you were talking to figure out your marketing strategy or whatever. I feel like, yeah, it's that's like our path as an artist a lot of the time, is we're just kind of like figuring it out as we go along, and just like, and also just like, it's so unique to us and how we decide to like basically shape our business. I try not to like listen to too much music industry advice, to be honest, because I'm just like, everyone is going to say something different, and it can get it's just a lot of noise sometimes and then I'm like, well, how do I feel about that? I already feel like as an artist, I don't know if you feel this as well, that there's just like, there's not only the own pressure you put on yourself, but there's like this pressure from the industry as well, as they like come out with these new things that you have to do. But then you meet artists that are like not doing that and they're doing just fine. And you're just like, well, then what is the right answer? Like, like there's just, at the end of the day, it always goes back to like, how do you want to run your own business? So give me a bit of a timeline here. How long have you been doing music now? Like, when did you release that first EP? And like, how old are you now? If you don't mind me asking.
The first EP was 2017. So okay. That, see, I used to be so good at math because I was in science. So 5, let's see, so it's great, 8 years, okay. And it feels like much longer. Yeah. It feels like I've been doing this forever. But yeah, oh my gosh, 8 years, wow. And like, I think like, and I feel like when I say that, I definitely haven't worked specifically as a singer-songwriter for 8 years either. Like, we had the pandemic, of course, and I did a couple of years of film scoring within that, and then as I mentioned, me being very open-minded and the type of person who wants to try everything. Like doing side musician stuff kind of came into there. And so, yeah, wow, 8 years. It feels like not 8 years, but it also feels like forever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
2017,
sure.
yeah,
I can get
wow.
that. I feel like I had this question and it's like just escaped my mind.
Oh
um,
no!
8 years, okay, and so um, well,
I was talking about like
just
all my
drawing a
like
blank.
zigzagging around, doing film scoring and going back to school during COVID and
Right.
tour, yeah, and playing in other bands and teaching and mentoring. Was it something about all of that?
It's so gone. It's so
No.
gone into the stratosphere at this point.
Oh no. Well, there was something you said actually that I really enjoyed, that could be cool to get into too. Like you were talking about how, there's no wrong answer in how you run your business or how you want to do,
Yes.
the arts, right? And that was actually a really, really good piece of advice that I got from a publicist I was working with on one of my EPs, and I was going, okay, like, should I do it this way or should I do it this way or a totally other way? And he was just like, there's no rules,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that is a scary thing for some people.
Yes.
But, and you talked about, your friend with the document of instructions. And I think that's great. And, there's all this advice from other people. And I think you can't, I mean, not every professional has time to mentor every new artist they work with. But I think there's something really, really valuable, definitely in having someone who is doing, who you can talk to once in a while and just say, hey, like, what do you think of this idea? But where was I going with this? I'm now also completely tangential here.
Yeah, no,
But yeah,
I think it's good. Yeah, like it's really good to have people to bounce things off of and to just when you're in, because it can get overwhelming. There are, you can get decision fatigue. There's so many different things you have to decide on, and and from, you also want to make sure it's like authentic to you, right? Is this, am I trying? I think that's also, what I've reflected upon in my journey as an artist is like, I feel like there was this period of when I started doing my solo project and I stepped away from the band that I was in for like 4 years. And when I look back on that, the songs I was writing and how I decided to like brand myself, I feel like I was trying to be like other people and I wasn't really being like myself. And I feel like I had, I mean, for me, like I kind of have this splice because I became a mother in 2021, and then I just stepped away from music for 3 years, and so I had this period of like stepping away from it and then coming back, and I think that's the one thing that I've noticed the most about the difference between what I was creating then and how I was choosing to, like, when I look at those pictures and listen to the songs, and I'm like, I feel like I was trying to like, yeah, just not be myself. And I think now, having gone through the experience of, and still am going through the experience of being a mother and everything that brings up, that's fundamentally changed who I am in so many ways. And so, I feel like right now is probably the most like, authentic version of myself that I've had. But that's a journey too, and I think about like the advice that we give artists a lot of the time. They're like, just be yourself, like be authentic. And it's like, okay, break that down into steps, because that is like, that piece of advice has always kind of like, when I've reflected on that piece of, on that piece
oh
of advice, I've been like, okay, break that down for people, because being yourself, trying to figure yourself out, like that's kind of like a journey, and that takes a while, and you have to go through some things, I think, in order to really like land in who you are. And so I guess the next question I want to ask you is like, what kind of experiences did you go through that you feel kind of shaped you into like who you are today? Like, were there some pivotal moments where you were just like, you left that part of yourself behind, or yeah, like,
Yeah. Oh, I love everything you just said. I mean, it kind of, you remind me of, this question, that, it's a little bit beyond like, oh, be yourself as an artist. Like, why are you doing music? Why do you need music? For me, like, the music itself has been a tool to figuring myself out a little bit more. And it's really, like and this is why I need it. It's like, I talk about how, how challenging it was for me as like a straight A's overachieving kid to leave, just to make the choice to not follow the path that like, looked the most impressive to everybody else,
right.
And do something that the feeling when you walk into a room of people who have corporate jobs and benefits and things like that, and you're the only person who isn't doing that, and you just feel like so othered.
Right.
And you have, your uncle who's going like, oh, are you still doing the music thing? And they just don't get it. They don't, and
it's like such
for
an
you and
abstract thing to them. It's like this, yeah, the music.
When you're at like a barbecue with like 20 engineers. And, they don't, there's this thing where, yeah, you don't really understand each other, and there's this attitude where maybe people in these other careers feel that, I mean, and plenty of people don't. This is a huge generalization here. Like I know plenty of people with these corporate jobs who are totally cool with whatever, but like I think because that's kind of the environment I grew up in, like you feel a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit wary. But people who don't necessarily see our creative work as real work, like because maybe we like it so much or something, or because I think people also and not completely wrong of them to assume that like most of us are financially not doing as well, but maybe not understanding why it's worth it, because they're just but for me, kind of doing music has allowed me to actually really kind of become the person I always hoped I could be or would be, someone who's not afraid to do something that might be perceived as weird or strange, someone who is not afraid of failure and is willing to try lots of things and meet lots of people and really kind of get, really explore ideas really deeply and practice all day, and someone who doesn't need to check off every box in this, arbitrary societal definition of what success looks like, invest huge investments in a house and a family and all of that. And I felt definitely growing up very trapped by those expectations. And I was, while working really, really hard to meet them as best I could, and then feeling, when you receive praise for meeting certain expectations, that, that makes you want to keep impressing people. But I definitely feel, and this like the steps to kind of landing in a spot where, I can't say that today that I'm completely free of that. I still still feel, kind of bad about myself sometimes if I happen to find myself in a group of people who don't understand what I do or seem to not fully respect what I do. Is that just my perception? I don't know. It's not completely comfortable to me now, but I do I think now, 8 years into doing this, I've arrived at a place where, for the most part, I don't feel ashamed of myself for doing it.
Right.
And I feel, and there's been a lot there's a lot to kind of say about the journey to getting there. Like music has helped me figure out a lot of things about myself that, maybe I didn't quite get when I was younger. It's helped comfort me in kind of growing through some of my challenging personal experiences, like health problems and breakups and mental illness and feeling like I didn't really just feeling lost and what do I do? And I think actually so there have been, especially on this EP I just released, I had a collection of songs that were quite vulnerable. And I think I think the first step, maybe not the first step, but one earlier step to kind of processing, questions about your identity or your experiences could be writing a song about it. But then it becomes, okay, I have a song. Am I going to perform that? Right. What are people going to think if they hear this song and then they learn something about me that maybe I was, not ready to share at one point? And then I just released an EP called Daylight Chasing Dusk, which has kind of several songs on it that fit that description. And this EP took me, it was recorded we finished recording Daylight Chasing Dusk in early 2022, or was it late 2022? I don't know. The years all blur together at this point. It might have been the end of 2022. Yeah, that's what it was. We finished recording it. I think it was January 2023, right? And then it didn't come out in 2023. It didn't come out in 2024. The first single came out, at the beginning of this year, and I did a bunch of singles, and it was, the whole thing is out now, September 25th. And there was this, I wish I could tell you, because, if I go through the track lists on there are, topics on this EP, you can hear me kind of processing things like growing, my healing from my childhood eating disorder, or there's a song where I actually about a year ago was diagnosed with complex PTSD. So there's all these songs were written pre-diagnosis, but I was kind of really thinking about why do I feel this way? Why am I so cynical all the time? Why am I so sad all the time? I'm not sad all the time anymore. But
Amazing.
Just why am I like this? So there's a song kind of grappling with that. There's there's a little bit of grieving in these songs. There's there's a song, about a crush on a woman, and I haven't, I'm not so these are all little pieces of my story, and I'm not, the way I write, or that I did on this EP anyway, is, it's in a fairly abstract way lyrically, where anyone who's just kind of vibing along might not necessarily pick up on these details, or my, clear insecurity in sharing them, but anyone who listens can figure it out. And so it was one thing to kind of record these songs in a studio environment where I trusted everyone who was in there, and I knew nobody was going to challenge me on anything or attack me on anything, and it was supportive and fine. But then we had this, and I was like, what happens if I put what happens if I put this out there? Are people going to care? And that's all the childhood overachiever being oh, but what do people think if I talk about this subject that that I'm still kind of uncomfortable with? So I will tell you that this is, again, a very long-winded answer to your question about figuring yourself out and whatever. Music has helped me figure it out, and then music has also forced me, in the best way, to get to the point where I can talk about these things. And I was going back and forth on whether or not to release this EP. And then, what happened is my funding deadlines came up and I had to, or else I was going to have to return my funding. So I didn't want to do that, obviously. Thank you, Factor, Ontario Arts Council, and City of Hamilton. So did I find the inner strength to do it all on my own? Absolutely not. That was purely a financial decision. Okay. But the great thing about it, though, and I suspected everything would be fine, and everything has been fine. And it was scary for me to kind of release these songs, but anytime I've done something in music that really scared me, the result has been good. People have liked it more than anything I've done that I was totally confident about, right? So I think just in this roundabout way, music has given me an avenue to be more confident in myself and authentic, and it has challenged me in personal ways as well as just in artistic ways, and it continues to do so. And that little bit of discomfort, that nervousness, I've learned that as unpleasant and uncomfortable as it is, and I'm feeling it right now because I'm thinking about some of the things I have to do the rest of this year, I like that the result of that is going to be good, even though it's going to be scary. And yeah, I never, ever, well, I can't say never, but probably would not have gotten to this point of the most self-acceptance I've ever had, if not for pursuing this. So the benefits have been, more than just, a career I enjoy. It's really helped me grow,
Yes.
in so many ways. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. And so you delayed the release of this EP because you were afraid, essentially, of exposing yourself in this way. These songs sound like really intense themes, but what's so beautiful about that is I feel like it's and what you kind of wrapped this all up by saying is the songs helped you transmute all of these really intense things that you may have gone through, but also realization. I mean, it's not easy to come out into the world as a queer person nowadays. There's a lot, we're all aware of how much hate there is against queer people all of a sudden, and trans and, two-spirit, non-binary people. It's a pretty intense climate right now. So I can see that, it's not easy to kind of expose yourself in that way. I love that you just had to do it, though. As much as you tried to delay that, the universe was like, nope, you are going to release this. You have no choice, Alex. This is happening. So
I'm grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I feel like when we write these really vulnerable songs and these pieces, they're the most difficult to, I know that after writing a set of songs, and I did my first show this summer, having taken my time off, going there to do those songs, those were the most vulnerable songs that I've written. I was just like, who am I? I don't even I was trembling when I was playing those songs, because I'm and then it just makes you think okay, well, what got me onto the stage? What is it in my mind that I had to get me on the stage before? Because now my heart is trying to be open, and my heart and to open my heart to an entire audience of people, just felt absolutely terrifying. But interestingly enough, even though I was terrified during the whole performance, I feel like I got the best feedback I've ever gotten, the most impact I've ever made with my songs than I ever had. And I was like, but it wasn't a perfect performance, vocally, technically I was not perfect. And, I felt like I was really held back and reserved in certain ways, but I guess enough came through my songs for the impact to be made. And it sounds like what you're describing is like the same thing happened. I feel like when it's like we're holding on so tightly, and so once we let go and we let ourselves be seen, it's that's when the impact is made. And so can you tell me a little bit about what the impact has been like since what kind of feedback have you been getting from people about this EP? By the way, I love the title of it, Daylight Chasing Dusk. I love that title. Like, it just
Thank
rolls off your
you.
tongue, and it just sounds so cool. Like, yeah.
I'll get into where it came from, but
Yeah.
yeah, so the thing is, the crazy thing, like all of this fear about, releasing a song that, makes me worry about people judging me or not liking me anymore, or the fear of performing. This fear makes you think that you're somehow alone in, this thing that you're scared about. And you're not. Like, all of, when I talk about, all the experiences that inspired the CP and all the experiences I've had since, the more I realize all of it is very common. Lots of people develop childhood eating disorders. Lots of people are closeted and scared to come out. Lots of people have difficulties with their mental health, and I've been I definitely don't share constantly or even every week about some of these more emotional or more personal things I'm going through. It's a lot of it is like, come to my show, it's a good time. Like, despite everything I just said, like, the music is fairly upbeat and it's a pretty good time. Like, you don't even have to engage with the content. You can just enjoy, my band and I rocking out and having fun up there. But the impact is, it on me and on the people listening is like, oh, I know how that you also experience. Oh, okay,
Right.
I'm not actually alone in this. Like, all of this, and all, like, my mind is kind of exploding here. Everything in there, like, we talk about these challenges. We talk about them more now, which is great. We're trying to normalize them, but we're not there yet. Everything is still very stigmatized. It still feels very sensitive and very vulnerable. And like, I think just having, like, there's even like a CPTSD awareness day on, I believe, September 2nd. So, I made a little post about that, just, again, not going kind of into any detail, but saying like, oh, hey, like, I was diagnosed with this, and since pursuing treatment, my symptoms have become way more manageable. And like, this is the awareness day. And like, if you're experiencing symptoms and you're able to access therapy, you should do it. And that was all it is. It was just like, quick little, hey, this is, a thing that maybe you should consider. And I didn't think very many people would see something like that, but the impact of again, something I'm like, oh, people are going to think differently if I share my diagnosis, even just on an Instagram story. That story got shared. I got lots of messages of people being like, hey, yeah, I have that, like, 2 or 3 people, or like, I have, I have the same diagnosis, but without the letter C. And like, also a couple messages of people going, I had no idea that was a thing. I had never heard of that before, but I looked it up and it resonates with me. So yeah, now I'm going to go and get an assessment, right? So
Amazing.
The impact in sharing this stuff, just it does get us a little closer to normalizing it, and I think it really, really does help people to feel, not isolated or not alone in what they're going through, and that is amazing. And so that's your question about impact. And there was another one that I've forgotten.
And the songs, like, when
The songs, the title.
Yeah, like, well, but also, like, you told me that you're on tour right now as well.
Yes.
So you're obviously touring this EP. Like, how have the songs been landing with people as you've been performing them?
Oh, well, I think I've seen lots of videos of people like dancing around while we're playing. I'm definitely like I've been looking and studying and practicing ways because I'm primarily a keyboard player. But I'm also fronting the band. I've had a lot of fun figuring out how to, like, I play standing up, so I'm able to kind of dance around a lot, and I've figured out certain movements, and I incorporate a lot of sound design into my keyboard playing as well, so it's not just piano sounds. I've got, like, tracks that I've programmed into certain keys that I can adjust and kind of fiddle around with. So my film scoring background comes in a little bit. So I think that the show, my band is back together. Like I feel like my band is the best we've ever been. The shows are the best they've ever been, vocally, confidence-wise, songwriting-wise. So the shows have been going really well. I'm really, really happy with them just because like people are having fun. And you asked about the feedback. And I kind of attempted to obliquely answer it, but like a lot of the feedback is just like, wow, I really, really liked that song. I liked that moment, or I resonate with this song. And, the comment I get a lot, like the song I was most nervous to release, it's called Wish. It's the only song that didn't get to be a single. And I kind of, the whole thing I'm scared about, the trend of that being the most enjoyed song, people will come up and tell me that they like that song the best. So that's been really fun to hear. And you asked about the title. So we were, it comes from my favorite lyric on the whole EP, and it's from that song, Wish, the third track. And I'll just also plug, last week I released the music video for that song, and it's me and a band of some amazing woman musicians in the Hamilton scene. You should go check it out. Playing the song, it's really, really great. Or I think it is. I had a good time. But anyways, the lyric is like daylight chasing dusk, I wish you wanted me. And I just really, really liked that line. When that line hit me, it was actually the morning we were going to record the vocal on the song. Okay. So the pressure was on, and I was still feeling like so about whatever lyric had been in there before. And it was the song about this like obsessive like feelings I had for this friend of mine. And I was driving myself crazy trying to figure out if there was any chance that these feelings were going to be returned. And I was looking back on this, and then like she had a boyfriend, and like it was this whole, like, again, very common experience that for some reason I felt very alone in, right? Yeah. But I was looking back on all of that, like, years later, and realizing, if all of this was happening today, I'm pretty sure I would have had the guts to just say something and see what happened. But at the time, I was, I just wasn't able to do that. And so the song is, it's definitely, the punchline is wish you wanted me, wish you wanted me, wish you wanted me. And it's it's about that feeling. But then in the bridge, it all kind of turns around, and the song really becomes about me kind of, just growing in those ways. And, it's just like, what would have happened if all of this was happening now, that I'm okay with myself. Really, it's about me and, the fear. But that line, like daylight chasing dusk, I wish you wanted me, is just, I love the way it kind of illustrates like the whole story, in that I felt like she and I were, in completely different in so many ways. And I was just like chasing and trying to get close and catch up, but like you never really can. Like the sunshine and the nighttime, like they're always chasing each other in opposite, and they're never kind of coming together, right? And I liked that imagery. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about it, daylight chasing dusk, also is a really good analogy for kind of how I felt about my own personality, my own mental health, mental illness situation, like my fairly cynical way of looking at the world, especially at the time. I'm a theater kid, and I'm, a musician, and I love everything I do, and I get very passionate and excited about things, but I felt like I was, I would get to that happy, excited, creative, fun place. And at the end of the day, every single day, it's like, fall right back down into, being a very kind of melancholy person, angry, frustrated person. So it definitely, I was thinking about, like, again, I was sifting through my own brain and trying to figure out, like, why am I like this? And that phrase seemed to really describe how, like, as hard as I tried to just put on, perform happiness all the time and act like I, didn't have symptoms to manage or whatever, like, always ended up, feeling more myself and more, more true to myself, I guess, in kind of a more negative mental state. So I really, really liked that line when it hit me. And I remember, there was a point where, with my two co-producers, Michael Keir and Thomas Hamerton, the conversation of, what are we going to name this thing? And then I suggested that idea, and, at first their reaction was like, oh, I don't know, like, what about, like, Chasing Daylights instead was one of the suggestions. And I was like, no, because I'm not doing that. Yes. I'm looking for a place where, like, where I can just be open and honest about all of this melancholy stuff I'm feeling. Like, that's really what I'm chasing here. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, that's how I feel. That's what I feel, who I feel I am. And then I remember a day later, Michael was kind of going, you know what? No, you're right. No, he's like, that's totally the right call. And, that's just, the time it takes for someone who is, not outside the project, but just to kind of come around and realize, no, that is a good summary for everything we've captured here. And as you said, it sounds pretty cool. Yeah. It sounds really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And, so many personal themes on this EP, and you're obviously touring to promote the EP right now. It looks like you're touring in Ontario, specifically. And let's jump into your work at CBC. So it says that your work has appeared on over 30 CBC radio shows and on national TV. Like, talk to us about that. Like, how did that all come about? I didn't even know there were 30 radio shows on CBC. I mean, there's so many facets to it, but I was just like, are they all music shows? Like, tell us about what your experience has been with that.
Sure. Yeah. So, with CBC, like, there's the kind of like the bigger, more well-known radio shows on CBC, but then there are a bunch of smaller stations in smaller towns all across the country. And I've just, thankfully, gratefully, like, I think I got my first CBC spin with my second EP, Burgundy, which was in 2019. 2018, 2019 was the singles and EP for that one. So it kind of started just with, I don't have a team currently, but what I typically do is during release cycles, I might hire one or two or three people to help me promote the release, both with like the volume of work, but also, if you hire a radio tracker to pitch to radio, that's going to generally have better results than me trying to pitch myself to people who might not know me. So I second EP, I went that route. I had someone pitching to radio. I had PR. I believe that's what I did I do slightly different things every time, depending on what my goals are. So I started, as an artist, that was kind of my first time, I think a couple Toronto CBC shows, and Hamilton, of course, where I'm from, has a CBC. So for appearing like on the radio, just more and more releases, more and more radio hosts being familiar with my work, and I think they're hopefully more likely to keep playing me just because they have in the past. Fingers crossed on that.
Absolutely.
And there was one song I released at the end of 2022 called Christmas Morning. That is one of my more successful songs in terms of radio anyway. And holiday season, people are looking for stuff to play. And that one did really well on CBC. And I was invited to do something they call radio syndication. So it's basically sitting in front of a mic like I am right now and doing the same interview at station after station after station after station. Okay. So there was one day where I was talking about Christmas music and my Christmas song to like I lost count, like so many different radio hosts and and I was doing it from CBC Hamilton. They hosted the whole thing and just in the cans, and all the hosts kind of knew roughly what we were going to talk about, and so that was really fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I saw that on your Instagram and I was like, what is happening? I was like, what are all these shows? Like, how are you doing this many shows at one time? Like, is it mainly like like in the Ontario area? Like
that day shows? Was all over the different provinces, different time zones, like all over Canada. It was unreal. It was so cool.
Excuse me. Did you do, because I listened to On the Coast with Gloria Makarenko. I listen to her like every day, pretty much, like on my work week, because I drive a lot for my job. Did you do an interview on her show as well, or?
I might have.
Do you remember?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, it's all, there were so many.
Go back and verify. Yeah. But, and the other thing I do for CBC as well is, you'll see me, I create content for them sometimes. So like you'll see me, in their Instagram reels talking about music, and, you know, one thing I really enjoy is digging up just interesting stories about our favorite songs, or Canadian musicians. Like, so sometimes it'll be like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, did you know that there's a Star Wars Christmas album?
No.
And there is, like, you know, like it, I'm trying to, but that video resurfaces. Like I did a video that tends to pop up every October about the history of the song "C'est Halloween." So just finding which was written by a Canadian music teacher on Halloween to teach to his students, and it was so catchy that it, you know, spread all across the country and everyone started singing it. And he eventually I don't know if he quit his job, but he left his teaching job to become a full-time children's music performer. And that's where we got like all of these like wonderful like French songs, you know, that were very kind of sing-alongable and very Canadian. So like just, you know, digging up fun stories like that and sharing them about music has been really fun.
Do you do that year round, or is that just a seasonal thing that you do for them?
It happens, like I haven't recently because I've been so busy. Like the way it works is I have ideas, I send them ideas, and they decide which ones they want. And then I write the script, I record myself, and then we send the footage and the vision for the editing off to an editor. Thankfully, like at first I was trying to edit them myself, and that's one thing I was not open to. I was, you know, struggling. I'm like, I think my third or fourth video, I asked, so what are the chances we can hire an editor? Because I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
I have no aspirations in video editing. Like, I don't know if this is, you know, a good idea. And thankfully they were okay with that. So, and I've also written, there was one video idea I had, about the CBC Olympic theme music when the Olympics were happening a couple of years ago. Okay. There's some interesting history there because the theme music, it was, I can't remember the composer now. I'd have to go watch all my old videos.
Yeah.
But somebody composed it, and then every new Olympics, they rearrange and re-record this theme song. And they incorporate like traditional musical styles from the host country, and different instruments and things like that, which is really cool. So I had, that one, we did a social media video on it, but they also asked me to write an article about it. So that was really, really cool as well. Nice. So I've done some writing for them, and we'll see. It's been on my list to send them some more ideas. But as you've mentioned, I've been playing a lot of shows with my own band, but also some of the other bands that I'm in have also been touring quite actively this year. So it's been a little bit on the back burner, but I definitely hope to do more of those soon, because it's a really fun, creative job. I like that it's music related, but it's also kind of like a different thing. Like, so it's nice to have kind of variety in what you're doing every day. And it never gets old seeing myself on the CBC Instagram. Yeah. It's really fun.
Absolutely. I feel like, CBC is like our Canadian pride, like for an artist to get their music played on CBC is just like such a big moment,
It really
so
is,
that's so cool. You've been able to achieve that and not only and stay connected with them. Like, how did you start doing all of this work with them? Like, did you just email them? Like, or did you already know someone in there, or like, how did that all kind of come about?
Yeah, so the producer that I work with, that I communicate with when I'm making all of this stuff, is somebody I met while I was focusing on film scoring. So that was a couple years in lockdown where live music wasn't really a thing. And so I met her working on a documentary where I was the soundtrack composer and she was the editor. And she went on to start working for CBC and was looking for people to do this, and thought of me and asked if I'd be. She's like, we're looking for people who have something to say, who are really kind of enthusiastic about the arts and Canadian art specifically. And I was really excited that she thought of me, because I have a lot to say.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, and like, let's highlight that for a minute. Like, I looked on your website. You have done you've done music on like several indie films.
Yes.
Like, how many films have you done?
It would be somewhere between 10 and 15 probably. I went as I always do, as you know, I've got that overachieving brain, but I think it was around 10 or 12, and that was, most of them were shorts, so don't get, it's not as crazy impressive as it sounds. So when COVID hit, and I want to say that I had always been interested in film scoring, because a lot of my favorite songs are songs that I heard in TV shows, and having that classical background too. I've heard so many beautiful pieces of music from soundtracks. But again, it was like, this is a mystery. How does one do this? How do you do it? Where do you go? Who's, how, right? So, and I learned, I did, so I tried it once. A mutual friend was writing this like hilarious movie at the time. It was like 2019-ish, I believe, called How to Impeach a President, which you can remember the events that would have inspired that. And that was a situation of me and my former bandmate, Ailish Corbett, who was a lovely singer and viola player. We were the only two musicians this person knew, I guess, and she just said, "Hey, I need music. Can you do that?" And we were like, "Well, we'll try." So we actually got together in this room actually for a weekend, and we started kind of, with no guidance and no real idea of what we were doing, just trying to figure out, okay, like that scene probably needs something. We need music for this situation and that situation. And we figured out, okay, we need something silly sounding. We need something dramatic sounding. We need something like heartfelt sounding. And we just kind of figured out with our skills how to do that. So that was my first film. But then COVID hit shortly after that. And I had been wanting, me with my associate degree in science with a music minor, I really had this regret at the time that I didn't have a proper, what I can quote unquote proper music degree or credential. So, I mean, other than RCM, which, that's still super helpful. But so when lockdown hit, I applied to Humber to do a grad certificate in music composition. So, and I got into that, and you had to choose a concentration. And I was having a really hard time choosing between songwriting and film scoring because obviously I was a songwriter and I wanted to be doing that. But I was really curious about film scoring. And the program coordinator, I was like, is there any way I could do both? And she's like, no, you have to choose one. And to be honest, I can't remember which one I chose because thankfully she paired me with a mentor who I guess she realized how interested I was in both. She paired me with someone who had experience in both. So this was a very one-on-one mentorship program. So I was working with a musician named Andrew Kessler, who has done like everything. And I was also meeting, so the way I got experience in film scoring was kind of through my mentorship, also through a bunch of online courses I was taking outside of Humber, and then some Humber courses that were on film scoring as well. And then what I did was I stalked other Humber students who were in the film program, and I emailed all of them and I said, I'd like to score your thesis films. I'm in the music composition program. Like, can I,
Nice.
And that I think
smart.
I did, I think I did 4 or 5 student films in like the span of 3 months.
Oh my God.
My eyes were about to fall out from being at my computer all day, but like, what else was there to do, right? We were all inside. So that was a really, really good way to learn.
Great pivot for the pandemic. Great pivot.
It was so fun. And then, and then people kind of noticed I was doing this, and then I got calls for films and TV shows that were not being done by students, like that were kind of people were doing outside of that. So I got some work through that. We did a couple feature-length documentaries, and I think one thing I'm really, really proud of about that time is that I did more than one feature-length documentary that were created entirely by all women and non-binary crew, which and you're obviously an artist yourself, so you would remember it was 2020 when that Annenberg report came out and reported that 2% of music producers were women. You must remember that.
I don't remember hearing that, but I mean, I believe it. There's no doubt in my mind that that's true. Well, and it's better now. Like it is, the number is rising, but this report came out, and SOCAN was going on and on about it. And that was also part of my reason for really wanting to try film scoring, because the way it's done now, like most of these productions do not have budgets to get a whole orchestra into the studio and, write the scores out on paper and record it that way. We're in Contact, right? We're in Logic, and we are, we're using, expensive, high quality VSTs basically, but you have to be a producer in order to be a film scoring composer. You also have to have an understanding of mixing, and you need a lot of those same skills. So part of me wanting to do that at that moment was, hey, I never considered that I could have that job, that I could learn that stuff, because again, you don't see women doing it very much. So the thought, never really occurred to me before. Yes. And I was like, I can do that. Love it.
So, and then
get in there.
Similar movement happening in the film industry at the same time, right? So it was just really, and not only were we kind of literally finding more opportunities and creating more opportunities for women through doing these projects, and proving a point, because a lot of these films are even still in film festivals years later, winning awards and things like that. But a lot of the stories, like the first full-length film I scored it's called Why Didn't I Leave? And it was very, very heavy subject matter, kind of exploring the experience of women who are experiencing gender-based violence. And we did another one that comes to mind where it was a documentary about the experiences of women Olympians and Paralympians. So just kind of like being a part of projects like that, again, that I talked about how I really always wanted to do something impactful and meaningful and important, and, thinking, oh, that's curing cancer. But it's also, doing work on projects like this, where we're getting more opportunities for women to do jobs in these male-dominated fields. And that has, ripples and ripples and ripples of hopefully benefits for the future of the art forms, but also the future generations of artists, I hope. So that was a really rewarding and exciting period of my career, and currently I'm focused more on performing live and doing songwriting type jobs and session type playing jobs, but it's very, very high possibility of doing more film scoring in the future for me, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, good for you for just jumping in there and deciding to do that and going after it. You clearly you have that energy about you, obviously, like what you said from the outset of how you just jump in and like, let's try this, let's see how it goes. You like to experiment. And obviously you're curious about these things. You have an interest in them. And so, yeah, like that's honestly, congratulations for all the work that you've done and contributed to those films. It's, even though they're indie films, like it doesn't matter. Like, that was probably a lot of work that you put into those. So like, that's amazing. And it's very impressive, and yeah, like good for you.
Thank you.
And yeah, so I did notice on your website that you have, just to like switch gears a little bit, I noticed that you have like a virtual tip jar, and I love that that's on there. I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that is such a good idea to like, just, I mean, people don't really carry cash with them anymore, and it's just such an easy way to just like get more funds for your project.
It's so funny because I forgot that was there. That was a COVID era thing when everyone was live streaming. So I would be sitting there live streaming and being like, if you'd like to, support, you can go to my website and do that. But I will tell you, like once in a while, so I forgot it was there. I'm glad you reminded me. I'm going to leave it there.
You should. Absolutely.
Because once in a while, I'll just get an email that's like, so-and-so, tipped this amount of money. And I'll just be like driving home from like, I don't know, the grocery store or something. And I'm like, what is this? Where did this come from? And once in a while I'll get an email like, hey, I just like completely rabbit holed, I went down the rabbit hole. I read all your, I read your whole website. I listened to all your music. I heard an interview or something. And I just, I found value in all of that. So I want to compensate you for it. It's so sweet, and it's so appreciative, and it goes beyond like financially super helpful, of course, like in this line of work. But also like helpful for the morale. Like absolutely. I get very excited about everything that's going on and everything I get to do, but it is very, very difficult mentally, financially, like, I'm here doing this because I really, for very many reasons, I knew I had to do it. But you think about, oh, what could I do instead that would be, that wouldn't take up all my time, wouldn't require, so much sacrifice. And, you question, often enough, everyone does, is it worth it? It is worth it, but you don't always feel it or believe it. And then, once in a while, and it doesn't even have to be a tip. It could just be a message, and I do get those, a message. I discovered your music randomly, and this song made me feel better about such and such thing that I've gone through. And,
I love that.
And you go, okay,
yes,
it's not just for me.
Yes.
Like it's really
bigger than you.
landing. If it helps me, it's going to help somebody else too. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I love that. And, what was I going to say? Oh my gosh, having another blank.
It's okay.
Oh yes. So, we've talked about all these things. You've done these film scores. You're on tour right now. You've released 3 EPs. I think I have that right.
4 actually.
Yours is your 4th one. Okay.
Yeah.
4 EPs. Are you doing this full time now?
Yeah, I'm full time, and it's a combination of a lot of different income streams, right? So I'm not teaching as much as I was, but I still teach a little bit, 6 hours a week, which any music teacher will tell you that's nothing. But primarily right now it's and the balance shifts with whatever I'm doing that year. But my original shows, my original stuff, I play in a bunch of different bands, and the other ones that are on tour right now are a couple of tribute bands under the company is called Classic Troubadours Live, and I do a Carole King, Joni Mitchell tribute show. I do a Sheryl Crow, Stevie Nicks tribute show, and I also do a Norah Jones, Bonnie Raitt show. So those 3, it's really
I love
great.
all those artists that they have so many great songs. Like I did see your performance of Beautiful by Carole King, and I love that song. It's so good.
So good. It's probably my favorite one of hers. It's hard to choose a favorite with Carole King, but if I had to, I think that's the one. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm keeping that's kind of the balance of what I'm doing right now. And so I'll teach Monday, Tuesday, 3 hours a day, do my admin, and then it's pretty common for me to be gone from Wednesday to Sunday playing all the different shows and different bands. And if it sounds tiring, yes, it is. But I love it. I love, even, sleeping in motels and driving to the next show. I'm really enjoying the shows right now. But depending on the season, like I said, sometimes it'll be CBC content work, or, sometimes it'll be, often I'll play piano or sing on other people's records, right? So, just kind of being a hired musician. And I think, that's what most people are doing. Most people are not earning their full income from doing one thing. It's a blend of, I take corporate gigs as well, where I'm doing, playing background music at a city event or something like that. Right. So, but yes, it's full time, and I love it. I love being self-employed. I like that every day looks a little different, even though it causes me a lot of stress sometimes.
Yes. Yes. Amazing that you've been able to, how long have you been self-employed now? For how many years?
When did I, good question. I decided not to return to my science degree would have been 2018 or 2019.
Okay.
So so around then, pretty much shortly after I released the first EP, and then it's just the balance of when I first kind of started out being self-employed, almost I would say 90% of my income at first was from teaching, and
right. Okay. So that was
right,
kind
and
of
then
your job, Right.
Yeah, and then just as I got more established as a performer, the teaching got less and less and less and less and less. And I do remember it. Like I love teaching, by the way. No shade to teaching music. It's extremely rewarding and fun. But I do remember the first year that I earned more from performing than I earned from teaching, and that was a really good feeling. And yeah, that trend has kind of continued for probably since the reopening of things like 2022, 2023. It's like, oh, wow, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't think I could do that. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you, especially since, it sounds like you had a lot of like pushback and maybe not a lot of like support in the beginning for the choice that you were making about pursuing music. But it sounds like that's really paid off, and you really just have yourself to thank there for all of that, because you've been the one driving yourself to accomplish everything that you have. So that's really awesome. And you're on tour right now as well. And so what venues are you excited? Like, which ones are you like super excited about on this tour coming up?
I mean, I'm excited for any chance to play an original music show with my band, but I will say, so we're doing, coming up, we're doing Napanee November 21st, Ottawa November 22nd. I'm playing a couple solo shows in Hamilton November 23rd and December 4th. And then the big one to finish off the year is Saturday, December 13th in my hometown of Ajax. And it's at a lovely theater called the St. Francis Center for the Arts that I grew up seeing shows at. And that is going to be the first time I've done a full 2-act show as the headliner with no opener. Like, so that is a big deal. We're doing,
oh my gosh.
And just the fact that it's happening at home is just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So what we're going to do for that show is, the first set is going to be the last, well, it might not be the last, but it could be the last official Daylight Chasing Dusk show will be the first half of that show. And then we're going to do a massive costume change, and we're doing a holiday show for the second set. So cool. Then it'll be, because as I briefly mentioned, I've released like a bunch of Christmas songs as well, and I love holiday music. So we're gonna do that, and it'll be at home. And I do just want to quickly touch on something you said earlier. Like I definitely I will accept the credit and the compliment for driving the bus and just, developing the confidence and the drive and to try something crazy and just see what happens and to continue to make that choice over and over again. That does take a lot of perseverance and guts and planning, really a lot of planning and organizing. But I have absolutely not done this alone, and I would never, ever, ever say that, I did everything myself. I have had a lot of help and a lot of opportunity. I am blessed that that my parents, signed me up for piano lessons and paid for those lessons and, drove me to the theater when I was in musicals as a kid. And, there was definitely like any kind of like hesitation and fear of, and, discouragement of trying this stuff, initially, all of that has gone. My family is very, very supportive of me now. And I think, all of that definitely kind of comes from, a place of wanting to help, really, at the beginning. And so many friends and teachers and musicians and people helping me out with things and not always even getting paid for it. It's, you cannot do something like this alone. And I would never, ever want to say, yes, I did all of this and it was all me. No, I've just been very, very fortunate to meet so many, helpful people who have helped me do this. And, I'm hoping that I'll be able to pay it forward just as much. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I was more so touching on how you were saying that there hasn't really been anyone in your family that that has done this and has taken this path. And I'm the same way in my musical journey as well. There's no one that I can look to and be like, oh, like that can give me the belief that I can do this, you know. That really does come down. Yes, it's like almost as when you make the choice, the support comes in. And when you start taking those little steps to believe in what you're doing and move that forward, then you get the help that you need, right? And I love that that you're wanting to highlight all the support that you've had. I love that. But also it's like, you're the one that made the choice to do this, even though that
It
was
is
like
true.
a difficult
Yeah.
choice, you know?
Yeah.
And especially when we don't have a ton of reflections or mirrors in where we've come from in order to move forward with that. I think it does take even more like courage to take those steps. And I think I think that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Of
with
course,
that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
well, thank you. And yeah, and it was definitely challenging. Well, I was gonna say for the first couple of years, I definitely, I was feeling a lot of that like pushback and pressure, and then definitely through the pandemic as well, that didn't help things. But yeah,
Yes,
so
that the
it's
pandemic
really,
challenged us all, that's for sure.
oh, but and I
Yeah.
say, but now, no, there's always gonna be stuff. So yeah, it's definitely it's a combination, right? And it's of support, but also you need to, and I certainly do feel proud of myself for this new interest in or the developing some kind of belief in myself enough of the time that I'm able to go and do things for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we all, we all, like almost every person I've interviewed, we all have those negative thoughts. We all have that self-doubt that comes in, and it's like, can take us down the rabbit hole of, negative thinking and whatnot. But, I think your heart is at where your heart is at. And at the end of the day, if you keep coming back to music, then it's just like, well, this is what it is for me right now. Right. So, I definitely know that I've had to come back, especially like having been away from it for 3 years. It was really like, okay, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? So yeah. Um,
Well,
I
it is.
also,
Yeah, I answer your question. Yes.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. And even with me starting this podcast, like it's, just like how you say you've had these people come in and support you, and like the drives to the gigs, and the paying for the lessons. And even with this podcast, the moment I made the choice to do this podcast, like everything kind of came together. And I feel like when you start moving towards something, and then like it's like everything kind of supports you in that, I think that kind of confirms your decision around it, right? So
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah,
Like you
and then it's
keep,
like each time
yeah,
you make those choices, it's like it just brings your belief in yourself, like a bit more and more and more, and then
yes.
eventually, you're just believing in yourself, and that's a great thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
becomes more real to you that you're like, oh, I can do this. Like this is a real thing.
yeah,
And maybe, that's a muscle that perhaps you and I have had to kind of, and I think maybe not just us, obviously many people, um, but especially people who haven't had like someone in their family to kind of role model, be a role model for making this choice and being a musician and being an artist. So um, I think, you know, it's a process to believe in yourself as you're going along the way. Um, so yeah. Um, I feel like I'm just kind of rambling now.
Everything you said was very well said.
Okay, well,
And
thanks.
completely, like, I was just like nodding my head like 100 times as you were going there. Yeah. Not
Yeah.
rambling. No.
Yeah, I think and I think too, like, especially with social media, like I think it's easy to watch someone on social media achieve something, and you don't see all the background that's happened for that person to get there, and I think that maybe that can create like these weird perceptions, I think, for maybe younger people and for myself, like, you see someone doing something, and we post all of our achievements and all the great things, but it's like, what were the like 20 failures that they had to go through to get where they are? And we don't see that part on social media. We just see like all the post, work, and we don't see the background of that. And maybe we should be sharing more about that.
I was
we
just
should
gonna
be
say,
sharing more
I
of our
want to
story.
see. I want to see an Instagram account where all they do is fail every single fucking time. Just like, oh well, all right. Like, I tried to, like, just in any context. Like, maybe. This would be so fun. Like, should I start like a carpentry channel and just make like the worst furniture and have it collapse? That sounds fun to me. I mean, like, see, this is the content I want to see. Like, forget all the AI like cute baby videos.
Yeah.
I saw an AI baby video where this like 4-month-old baby had a full adult set of teeth this morning. And I'm going, what are we doing? What is happening? No, see, this is what I want. I want all the fit, like, the non-dangerous. I don't want to see people getting hurt, but like, make bad furniture, like, I don't know, like, completely destroy like the baking you were trying to do and have it like, I just bad haircuts, like.
Yes.
This sounds fun to me. I think this is a great concept, and maybe something like that will inspire people to not worry so much about the results.
Like, here's a song that I absolutely do not like and will never release. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, I have so many of those songs in my voice memos where I'm like, oh, I'd never share that,
Make it a series. Make it a series.
Yeah,
make it a pit, like,
everything is very polished, and I think it does impact us mentally. It impacts our psyche, because it just kind of, and maybe, maybe we do need to be sharing more of like our story and how we got there, and what maybe normalizing what it takes to get where we are today. And I think that's also why I like to have a little bit more of a deep conversation with the people that I'm interviewing about, like, what did it take for you to get to where you are? And like, how do you feel about, yourself in the role that you're in? And do you believe in yourself? And, I think it's important to talk about those things, because, a lot of the time we just see this success. We don't see the story behind it. And, as you say, as you were mentioning about, so many of us are not alone in so many of the things, even your story, there's a lot of parallels to my story as well. And so, like, you're absolutely right. We're not alone in all of it. And I think maybe that's our job as artists, is to hold that, for us to like open up to our own selves, so that we can, allow other people to get in touch with those parts of themselves as well. And that's like our job, when we write songs. And,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about everything I just said? I don't know.
What
I think, but I don't know.
Everything you have said, I wholeheartedly agree with so far. I think, and well, am I allowed to ask you a question? Like,
of course, yes.
So,
absolutely.
like, So you're back in music after a 3-year break. So like, what does that look like for you? What are you doing right now? The podcast, of course, which is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just been I mean, during this whole 3 year like break, I was basically taking a break from performing and releasing music. But I was always writing songs during that whole time. It's probably one of the like hardest times I've ever gone through in my life. Like my mental health was probably at like the worst in the last like 3 years. So there was definitely a lot of art being made. I was definitely relying on my art to get through that. And so, yeah, now I'm just continuing to write songs, and I'm working with a producer right now to put some songs together and release them. And I do want to start performing again. I seem to have like this really big block around like just getting my ass in gear with that. I don't know. I'm just like not practicing. I don't know why. Like I think for me, I like struggle with like underachieving. Like I'd rather keep myself small and fearful than like just going for the things that I know I want. I think that's like my work right now, is to just like really stop doing that and just like get my ass in gear and get going, you know? Cause I didn't have, you know, when I was gigging regularly, you know, I was practicing all the time. So, yeah, it's just, I guess, like getting back into the swing of things, and then just doing the podcast. I mean, the podcast has actually taken a lot of my time, and I'm going to be starting a new season in January, which actually this episode will be in the new season. Amazing. In January. And I'm kind of trying to figure out like how I can maybe do less podcast stuff and be working more towards like my own music, and just giving that a bit more time. Because when I got really excited about this podcast, and I just kind of like hit the ground running. I kind of knew it was going to take a lot of time. It was going to take up a lot of my time, but I don't think I really realized like how much of my time in the way that I wanted to do it. You know, I could just post like once a week, or you know, but I was like, no, I want to do it the way I want to do it, and I want to do it the way I have the vision to do it. And so, yeah, it has like taken a lot of time, but it's also been like so rewarding. Like these conversations have just like given me so much as I'm like trying to ease my way back into the music industry, and like just every conversation has impacted me in such a like beautiful way, and just in my heart. And it's like I just take so much inspiration from everyone, and including you, about, you know, moving forward with my music. So yeah, I get so excited about talking to people and hearing their stories, and just like it's just a cool process to be a part of. So
yeah. Have you as you want the podcast, have you considered co-hosts? Like just a thought, like if you were, what do
you mean?
Like if you had 2 other people, and you rotate who's doing the interview. So you will interview one person, co-host number 2 takes over the next week, co-host number 3 takes over the next week. You get the same amount of recordings, but it cuts down the amount of time that you're on it, right? And then that's one
a great
thought.
idea. Yeah. You know, I was thinking about doing maybe like 3 episodes 1 month, like release one every other week, on a Friday. But then maybe the next month I'll just release 1 episode, so then I have more time for music, and then
There's also that.
Yeah, because I was thinking at first to do it like, oh well, maybe I'll just do once a month, but I'm like, that's really spread out. I don't know if I would like lose interest, if I would like lose a level of momentum with it. So I don't know, but that's a great idea. Like, thanks for suggesting that. That sounds attractive, to want to you know, have other people kind of take the reins and do that. So yeah.
And then, you know, and then you have a team, and then it's a little bit less of everyone's. Like one of my favorite podcasts does that. It's called Sounds Like a Cult. And it's like there are 3 hosts, and usually it's only 2 of them at a time. Sometimes it's 1 of them at a time. And yeah, I think it just helps everyone have a little more balance in their lives. Yeah. And then it's a little more of a team. And and good for you. Like, I think I will also say, like, when you're talking about wanting to, like, you know what you want to, if you feel like, yeah, I really need to go and perform right now, sure, if you feel like that's the right move for you. But I think a lot of people also go through seasons, right? Like, I'm not doing a lot of songwriting right now because I'm performing and promoting something I just released, right? And then when I go into songwriting mode, I deliberately am probably not performing as much because I want to be, focused on that. So like, I think, like right now, I was, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, I was at a music video shoot yesterday, and a bunch of my friends were in it with me, and we went out for dinner after, and because all my friends are musicians, so I was like, oh, songs, we gotta write more songs, when are you writing songs, do you want to co-write? And I feel like people are very obsessed, at least where I am, with like writing more and more and more songs, which is good, and you should be, but I'm very much like, I'm not, for me personally, like I'm in tour mode right now, and if I start writing songs, I'm gonna, like you were talking about the practicing, like then I'm gonna be half as good at both things because I'm really kind of in one kind of zone right now, and I will come back to songwriting. But for you, like if there's, I'm not saying that like your desire to want to start touring again is incorrect, but if it's feeling like a should right now, and you're really in producing your album mode, like there's no reason to feel bad about not performing until the album is done and then shifting over. And I know many, many people who have more experience and success than me who will say that exact thing. I spent 4 months songwriting, 4 months touring, and like 4 months screen scoring, is like someone told me once, and I was like, that's great. Yes. Like, so yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, if you're feeling like, I'm not doing all the things at the same time. No one can do all the things at the same time. Like, it's impossible. Yeah. So figure out, and there's no formula anymore, right? So that is like the one thing I will say, Yeah. It makes sense to finish your project and perform to promote it when it comes out.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's true. And I do feel this kind of like anxiety about like, oh, I should be doing this and I should be, and purely because I'm on social media, because I see other people doing stuff. I'm like, I'm like, I need to do that. I need to get back out there. And there's this anxiety about it. And yeah, there's the pressure to like be doing all the things. I think that's a good point. It's just like be patient in the process and the season you're in. I think that's kind of what I take from what you just said, and that there are different seasons for things. I also think it's okay to like I kind of, to brush myself off again, I started going to open mics just to like get familiar with being in front of people again, and just how does this feel, what is this like, and do I want to do this? Like, I'm still questioning whether or not I was on the right path, right?
Yes, you are.
So, yeah.
Anytime someone says that to me, I'm like, yep, yes, you are. Yeah. You just need to hear it, right? Like,
yes, totally. Yeah. So maybe we'll leave it there.
Sure.
For now, and just we're both on the right path, and it was just so nice to connect with you, and just really cool to hear about the things that you've been up to in the last like 8 years. Really, really awesome hearing about how you landed in all of those different projects. So thanks again for like reaching out, and because this was the first time you and I had ever met. So
I'm so happy to meet you. Yeah, I have a friend in BC now. This is great.
100%. Yes. Hit me up anytime. If you're going to come out this way one day. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for being on the show, and just being yourself.
Thank you. Well, and thank you for having me. I enjoyed this so much. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm so glad. Okay, I'm just gonna